What's going on, Shaolinn? How's it going?
Hi, it's good. How are
Awesome.
you?
I'm good. Appreciate you for taking the time out for this. I had a chance to check out Blackstone a couple weeks back, and I had no idea what to expect on there. But when I listened to it, it was a breath of fresh air, and I'm excited to talk to you and just find out more about that project, your come up, and just what you have going on.
Of course. Thank you so much for letting me know that, and thank you for taking the time to listen. I'm trying to fix this. Let's get this.
All good.
There we go. Okay,
Cool,
much
cool.
better.
Awesome. So I got to start off. You're going to be hitting the road with Kevin Ross for a show in DC soon, right?
Yes, I am. I have a show. His show is on Friday, and I'm going to be doing two. I'm going to be doing two performances, two sets at 6 and at 9, and I'm very excited for that. I'm opening up for him, so that's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, talk about
Mhm.
that too, because, and we'll get into your journey later on, but just looking at it now, hasn't happened yet, but to get to that point where you're now opening up for an established act, like the journey is not over yet, but just where you've been so far and where you are now, like just talk about that journey and how it feels right now.
Um, it feels great. I've I've gotten a lot of support like just throughout all of this, and especially this is my first time doing a show in DC, so to
Mm.
even be able to open up for Kevin is like amazing. And I'm just very like grateful that I've had a lot of people in my life like just walk this road with me and support me and believe in me. I feel like um I just, I don't know. I feel like I'm just in debt to a lot of people, and even like just push like listening to my music and supporting me as an artist is just I'm just very grateful of it all.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
amazing. Let's take it back to the beginning because I think every child, every teenager has aspirations to do, creative things.
Mhm.
I can speak for a lot of people in here. They've dibbled and dabbled into arts, music,
Mhm.
painting, drawing. Like, how did it all begin for you in terms of music?
So uh my spark in music happened when my mom got us a rock band on
Mm,
PlayStation 2,
yeah.
and I was always playing with my brothers, especially my older brother, Kano, and I would always play with my brothers, and I would always hog the mic. Like nobody could
Mm.
sing but me. And it just I fell in love with a lot of the old rock music that I learned. And it started from that into me trying to write rock music. And
Mm.
then it turned into me writing poems for a very long time, like poems and stories, especially throughout middle school and like my early high school years. But then I really started investing in writing into songs when I listened to the YouTube type beats. And I never knew what YouTube type beats were until like I went on, YouTube and found them, and I didn't realize that producers were putting their beats out for people to write to. So like once
Yeah.
I kind of found that world, I really like invested into writing music and making
Mm.
music. So
Nice. What
mhm.
were some of those songs on that Rock Band game? Which Rock Band was that?
It was the first one. It was the first rock
Okay.
band. And a lot of the bands, a lot of the songs like Maps by Yeah Yeah Yeahs, Paranoid, you got Black
Mm,
Sabbath, all of them. It was just so fun. What is it now? Beastie Boys, them.
yeah.
Yeah, the song
Yeah.
Sabotage, that like all of those old like rock songs I really fell in love with, and that just really sparked everything, like the writing process, all of that.
That's amazing. And of
Hmm.
course, you're from VA as well. And, Pharrell and Chad, NERD, they're from there as well. It's super similar, right? Like they're rooted in R&B and hip hop, but they went off and they branched out to do NERD, which is like an alternative, but it's
Hmm.
still hip hop. Like, just talk about Virginia and like where you're from. Is that normal for everything just to like mesh together like that?
Oh yes, of course. Like there's a lot of local artists that I know that even mesh those sounds together, like alternative hip hop, alternative R&B, like
Yeah.
experimental sounds. And I feel um, like I said, like a lot of local artists, they're doing that. You know, it's just not a lot of them have the recognition. And even
Mhm.
some of the artists that do have recognition are doing like hip hop and R&B. So that's dope as well. I feel
Yeah.
like just the DMV whole area, especially like Virginia, where because we're like right in the middle of everything, I feel like
Mhm.
we're getting just the whole branch of all these sounds from different artists when it comes to hip hop, R&B, pop, it doesn't matter. Like even the West Coast sound, like all of that. And I feel like we really do, like we have all of that around us, and it's awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
What was your mom listening to when you were growing up? Like, because when I listen to your music, even though I think Blackstone is like there's R&B elements to it, I wouldn't say that's all the way R&B. I know there's, like you mentioned, you grew up listening to rock music as well. Like, what were your
Mhm.
parents listening to?
Oh, my mom was like all over the place with her sound. She would jump from Lauryn Hill to Eminem
Mm,
to Nickelback and then Mariah Carey. So she
right.
was really everywhere. Like my mom, and then she was in love with Prince. So my mom was really tapped in uh to a lot of different sounds. And even my mom wrote, like she used to write music
Mm,
too. So I feel like I feel like she kind of inspired me in a way, and I didn't really realize it. But I would always listen to her songs when she would make music, and I would go to like her studio sessions. And I
mm,
feel like just a lot of that, like art, when it comes to like music and everything, that came from my mom and my dad because they were both like in touch with music. My mom wrote, my dad was a singer. So it was like, I was just really kind of I just was born into it, you know?
mm. And when I listen to your music, right, and it's funny that you bring up people like Lauryn Hill and Eminem, because when I listen to them, the first thing that comes to my mind is like honesty. Like when I
Yeah.
listen to their lyrics, it's like super in your face, like you know what they're talking about. And I get
Hmm.
that same vibe from you. Like when you're going through that process, especially early on, were you afraid to be honest with your words? Because like you're putting yourself in a vulnerable state there.
Um, I felt like there were moments like when I was first writing, I was scared to really be honest because I felt like people were gonna like judge me or make fun of me
Mhm.
if like the sound or the subject was too dark or it
Yeah,
was too sensitive. And then it just kind of, as I continued to keep writing and as I kept going through like a lot of things throughout the years, I just was like just naturally kind of writing honestly, and it
yeah.
just got to a point to where like I put it out, like when I finally put the music out and I was getting a lot of love for it, like a lot of support for it. I was like, wow, like this is,
Yeah.
I'm getting really good feedback for like talking about how I feel or what I've seen. And so like just ever since then, like putting out my first song, being vulnerable, like when it comes to heartbreaks and everything, ever since like that first song, Missed Calls, I immediately just was writing about everything that I felt and was going
Mm,
through. Hmm.
nice. Take me through your creative process, especially early on. Like, I'm curious about your journey and your sound and what that's been like, that transformation to where you are now. Because, I mean, you write some dope records now, but like, I'm sure early on, while you're still finding yourself, like, there were some moments you're like, I can get better at this.
Yeah, so there are moments where I like in my creative process, like when I'm making a song, a lot of the times, mostly all of my songs are just freestyles. Like I'll
Mm,
put on the beat and I'll throw on my voice memos and I'll just literally sing through the whole song. And
yeah,
if and most of the times that's the song, and other times I'm going back and I'm like redoing or reworking some of the things I said or some things that I don't like. But there are moments where like I'll write and I feel like, okay, I'm using the same word too much, or like
mm,
I'm using the same rhyme, like, you know what I mean, that I've used in other songs, like
yeah,
time, by, stuff like that. And
yeah,
for me, like, I kind of there was a moment where I felt like I was forcing myself to write about something. And
Hmm.
then once I realized like I can write about anything, that's
Yeah.
when like my process really grew. Cause then I
Mm.
started writing about scenarios that I've like
Right.
personally never been through, but have seen or have heard from someone else. And which led into Vivian like that.
Yeah.
Um, because I've never been addicted to drugs and I've never had anyone in my life addicted to drugs, but I've known like the way that the song was interpreting, because that song was about a person who was willing to put someone through pain for their own gains, like a drug addict, you know. They're
Yeah.
willing to stab people's backs and use them for money. And I've never experienced that, but I've been around people that have. And
Right.
so that kind of like me knowing that I can write about anything has really helped me make a lot of music. So that's, yeah, awesome.
Awesome. So as you're going through your journey as a songwriter, as an artist, like it gets to the point where like you have to decide for yourself, is this something you're going to pursue seriously? Is this just a hobby? Like, what was
Hmm.
that conversation with yourself and maybe your family like?
Hmm. So at first my family wasn't really on board with my decision.
Hmm.
They told me that I like school was more important and
Right.
graduating was more important. And then they kind of put the idea that if I don't have a job, like a 9 to 5, like then I'm not really doing anything with life,
Mm.
in a sense. And so when I was really like my manager, when I was really pursuing music with him and he was
Yeah.
trying to build me, a lot of the times I would get those side conversations with my family members like,
Sure.
you know, like you should have a plan B, like
Hmm.
you should, make sure you have something to fall back on. And to me, I've always said the saying like, if you have a plan B, you already gave up on your plan A. And like
Yeah.
that's just how I see it. So
Yeah.
I've always believed in myself when it comes to music, and like I'm here now and I'm still going. And even but there are moments like you said, conversations where sometimes I feel overwhelmed, sometimes I feel like I don't have an opinion, and
Yeah.
that leads me into being like, do I want it? Like, do I want this level like that I'm reaching for? Do I really want it? Like, will this really truly make me happy? Because
Yeah.
the concept of music makes me happy, like making songs, writing songs, making music with people. But the concept of having to always put myself out there, having to define my success as making a whole month, like, being a millionaire and like
Hmm.
being popular. Like, I'm a very private person.
Yeah.
And so when I have to get out of that, my comfort zone, when I feel like I have to force myself to do something that I'm not used to, that's where I start to question, like, do I really want this,
Right.
but I don't allow that to really affect me. Like I'm just doing this, and whatever this takes me, it takes me. And I just know that I'm doing this because I enjoy music. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool that I'm talking to you at this, stage of your career. You're
Hmm.
not entirely new. You've been through a little bit of the journey. I know there's a huge part of it that you still haven't experienced yet, but
Yeah.
I mean, you've gone to a point, signed to Pusha T now, and we'll get into that later, but
Hmm.
you've gone to a point that a lot of people are still trying to get through. There's always this like glass barrier that people try to break through, and you're there. So take me through those early days with your manager and trying to figure out how am I going to get to this point? Like there was probably a lot of tough times during that period, right?
For sure. Yeah. There were times like when I was in school, there were times where shows were late, like super late, and I had school
Hmm.
in the morning, and my mom like didn't want me to be at a show when I
Right.
like, but I would like sneak it or sometimes I go to
Of
them
course.
anyways. And there were moments where we needed, especially my manager, needed to put a lot of money, like take a lot of
Yeah.
money out of his pocket to go where we needed to go, whether that was out of state to try new things like the Revolt Summit, and going out of his way to really invest a lot in me, when he's just, the simple American person, like he's not a
Yeah.
millionaire, like he doesn't have all this money. I don't have all this money. So like
Right.
when we were really trying, he was investing and putting a lot of money into me. And like that just really worked out in the end because, I got noticed by Push, and
Yeah.
constantly going to bars when I'm like 18, 19, performing, because a
Mm.
lot of shows are at bars, a lot of shows are at clubs, like, your local shows. So constantly like going out and performing, being at places where I shouldn't have been, going to the studio and constantly recording and doing all of that. Like that was a journey, that was the hard
Yeah.
part. And there were moments where like people didn't really care. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't getting a lot of interviews, and I wasn't on podcasts and stuff like that because I was just a local artist performing at a club.
Of
So
course.
like the recognition wasn't there. So for me, I didn't really see it as like, what can we do to like keep going? I saw it more as, I believe in Chris, my manager. Chris believes in me,
Yeah.
and I know that we're gonna make this no matter what. And that's just
Yeah.
kind of how I saw it, no matter what was happening. And we're here now.
Yeah. I mean, what's cool about your story, like performing at bars, it might not seem like a lot at the time when you compare it to like performing at an arena or a stadium, but like it's those
Mm-hmm.
little moments, it's like those little pieces, and you need those building blocks. I know there's a lot of people out there who are trying to be artists and they think, oh, if I post my music on SoundCloud and I don't do all that other stuff, I'll be fine. But like, no, like everything matters. It
Yeah,
might not seem like
everything.
it matters at that moment, but
Mm-hmm.
like you're putting in that work and that event eventually got you to Pusha T. Like, just talk about how that happened.
So constantly doing local shows and constantly like performing at clubs, performing at bars, performing outside, like all these little, even at art galleries, all these little local shows. I'm not gonna call them little, all these local shows that I
Yeah.
was doing, um, led to people starting to talk about me. And, like
Hmm.
my name started spreading, like, hey, you see this dope local artist, like her name is Shaolinn. She performed here, blah, blah, blah. And like, at the time, Blackstone wasn't out. At the time, it was my first EP that I put out. It was called Oh Me. And
Mm.
I was performing the songs on Oh Me. And those were like the songs where people were like, sorry, my cat is like messing with
Are good.
me. But it was those songs, and people were like, really spreading my name around. And then once it got to the bigger people that were coming back to Norfolk from like out of state stuff like LA and Atlanta and New York, once those people came back and was like, oh, this girl, I keep hearing her name, da 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 da. And
Mm.
it's a shout out to the cat. But I keep hearing her name. Eventually it got to Push's team. Eventually it got to his wife. And then his wife told him about me. And then once that happened, Push was like, well, I need to have a meeting with her. Like,
Mm.
where's she at? And that's like what happened.
Nice. What were your expectations when you met Push? Because obviously you have aspirations of being an artist.
Hmm.
You're talking to a guy who's established in the industry, one
Hmm.
of the biggest in hip hop. You know, I love the Clips. I love Push as well. The Neptunes, that whole camp. And obviously you're aware of where they come from as well.
Yeah.
Just what kind of expectations did you have when you met him?
I honestly did not think that he would support me as much as he does. I
Mm.
didn't think that, and this isn't in the sense of like, um, what he, like him as a rapper and his sound. It was more in the sense of like, I'm just a small local artist. Like,
Yeah.
what is he gonna really see in me? As much as
Hmm.
I like, and that was my perspective on him. I believed
Yeah.
in myself whether he liked me or not, but I kind of went in on like a nervous, like, okay, I hope like, he likes what he hears. And so when we played him the EP, when we played him Blackstone, he
Yeah.
was really, really super on board with it,
Mm,
especially Heavy Heart. Like that was his favorite. The moment
yeah.
he heard Heavy Heart for the first time, he was like, "This is the one." And and from then on, he just was like super on board and supportive of what I write. He loves that I freestyle sometimes on live. He loves that
Right.
I play video games. He loves that I write to YouTube type beats and SoundCloud beats. Like he doesn't really want me to change as a person. If
Yeah.
anything, he just kind of wants me to really amplify the person that I am or like be a better version of me. But he's a really cool guy, and yeah, it was really nice meeting him, and I'm just glad that he was on board and supported my sound.
And that Heavy Heart record, like Push, I 100% agree with him because when I heard that, it was so raw. Like I mentioned earlier, it was honest. Just talk about not only that song, but the whole Blackstone EP, putting that together, where you were at during that point in your life. Like just
Mhm.
talk about that.
So Chris actually he put the EP together. He put the songs together because I made the songs, but I didn't think that people were gonna like the songs,
Mm,
especially Heavy Heart. I thought
okay.
that I Heavy Heart was my most vulnerable song because I
Yeah.
really opened up about like the years that I felt like everything that I felt throughout the years. I really thought nobody was gonna like Heavy Heart because it wasn't really catchy. It was very wordy. It was a lot of just me kind of talking and venting throughout the song. And
Yeah.
so that whole process, like, I was very anxious. And when Chris put the EP together, I was like, "Are you sure? Like, you want Heavy Heart up there? Are you sure you want Head Down?" And he was like, "Yes." He was like, "People are gonna love
Mm,
this." Like, yes. And Blackstone in of itself, making those songs, um, every song that was made was in a different point in my life. Flowers,
mm.
I made that when I was in the Airbnb in the bathroom before the Revolt Summit, like before
Wow.
I was about to go to the summit to see what was going on.
Wow.
And yeah, and Frank, I literally was in my room and the beat came on and it was a picture of Frank Ocean and he
Mm,
was like posed in the sky, like as if
yeah.
he was dancing. And I literally just freestyled off of that picture. And Heavy Heart, that beat as well was called Heavy Heart. And when I heard that, I was like, and when I heard the beat and when I saw the title of it, I was like, Heavy Heart. I was like, and I really sat down and I actually
Mm,
wrote the song and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna open up about this. And that's what
yeah.
I did. And
Wow.
yeah, and Head Down, I made Head Down when I was 17. I made Head Down
Mm,
when I was 17, 18, and that song was really old. And
mm.
I had that recorded for a while and I never put it out. And then
Uh,
well, till now. But
right.
all of these songs like was in a different point of my life. And Blackstone, the name of the EP, I lived on a street called Blackstone, and it
Okay.
was in a neighborhood uh by the Lynn Haven Mall. And that was the period of, oh my god, my cat's on the table. But that was a period of of really bad depression for me. I
Mm,
Give me a second. I have to get her
yeah.
down from the table.
No.
Get down. Okay. Okay, she's down. But that was a period of really bad depression. I'm gonna close the door. Yeah, go ahead. And because I was, yeah, I was supposed to magic hollow every time. Okay. But that was a really bad period of depression for me because I was moving from a school that I went to for 2 years, had a lot of my friends there. Um
Hmm.
I was in a breakup. I was literally going through like a early breakup and I was having a lot of problems at home, and then I was working at a job that I hated. So I
Mm.
was really, really depressed, and living in that house, all of it was just really bad for me mentally.
Right.
And um I feel like from that house and on, I really grew as a person. And when I moved, and then moved again, it was just a lot of feelings. And I felt
Mhm.
like Blackstone was like the root and the start of it all. So that's why I named the EP Blackstone, because it just has like a really special but painful place in my heart.
Right.
And I felt like it was just worthy of being called Blackstone.
Nice. I'm curious. You just told me the backstory behind listening to that project. What emotions do you feel when you listen to that project now? Like, does it bring you back to those moments, or?
Yeah, a lot of the songs like Flowers and Heavy Heart and Head Down especially, it
Yeah.
really does bring me back to the moments, because I sit there and I think like, dang, I really was sad as fuck. Like, I really was sad. Like, this is like really sad to me. And um all of that, just like listening to it back, I'm kind of like amazed at how far I came in such a short time,
Yeah.
and kind of in a way like happy that I'm in a better place now than I was before, physically and mentally. And so listening to all of that in my mind, I'm like, dang, like so many people relate to this. It's crazy. Like when I hear
Hmm.
how much people relate to these feelings, I'm like,
Yeah.
I've had these feelings years ago, and people are
Hmm.
like telling me how much it relates to them now. And
Yeah.
in my mind, like I'm thinking, this is going to be something that's going to be with me for the rest of my life. And I'm
Yeah.
very, very happy for that.
Yeah.
Like, very happy for Blackstone, all of it. Very happy. Very happy with the people that I met through it, with the friendships that I build, with the songs that I made after all of this. Like, very
Yeah.
happy with it.
Yeah, because
And
you
all
got to
that.
think, people might have just discovered it now, but it's like maybe it's something they were looking for before, but they just didn't have an outlet for it, and then they stumbled upon your music, and it's a beautiful thing when people come up to you and they tell you how much that it's impacted them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
There's a lot of encounters that live in my head, especially when people come up to me about Heavy Heart. And especially, it's mostly a lot of females that come up to me, because they come up to me and they say, dang, like I really relate to that. Like being, skinny in high school and being like made fun of and being
Hmm.
depressed and everything. Like a lot of girls come up to me and say how much you relate to that. A lot of even older women I've had like older women, and I've had middle-aged women, and I've had younger women come up to me and tell me that their daughters are going through this. So
Right.
like hearing this from me is like amazing, because their daughters understand that they're not alone when they
Right.
feel like this. And some of them like tell me that they're going to show their daughters a song. Other times I get love from the daughters themselves, like these little young girls that are
Right.
just as insecure as I was, telling me like I feel this way too. And I'm just like, wow, like I get to feel that with you.
Yeah. And
Amazing.
what's crazy? As I listen to Blackstone, immediately what comes to mind is like, that project is I think more R&B based, but I can just tell from your vocal approach to some of your songwriting, like you have a lot more that's coming, and it's not just going to be R&B based. And you mentioned
Yes.
earlier, like you have your rock influences. Just tell me what you have in mind or what you're working on and what it's going to sound like.
I have a lot of different new sounds coming along the way,
Hmm.
and I am just very excited for you guys to hear the collaborations that I'm going to be doing next year. Everything with all these different sounds that I'm trying, not even just R&B stuff. Sometimes I
Yeah.
just like a lot of the times I like making songs that aren't vulnerable or sad. They're just fun. They're hype.
Yeah.
They're, cool. They're dancey songs, whatever. Like, to me, like, and the friends that I'm working with, the people that I'm working with, there's so much new sounds coming. I'm just
Hmm.
so ready for you guys to hear what else I can do and just really understand that I'm like I can bring whatever to the table. You know what I'm saying? Whatever I
Right.
want to feel, or whatever I want to talk about or write about or sound, that's what I'm gonna do. And a lot of people. I just got a notification that my battery's low. I gotta get the charger.
Okay.
But but I'm just very excited for all of it, and I hope you guys are ready. You guys are ready for it because I am. I'm so ready. I'm
Nice.
excited. All this new music, all this new music that I'm making, so much new music. I'm just so ready for you guys to hear it. Like, oh,
Nice. I'm excited. And you
mm-hmm.
know what's crazy is like the vibe that I get from you when I talk to you is when you make the music in your mind, you're already thinking about what the live performance is going to be like, what the
Yeah,
music video, like you have all that conceptually like thought of already, right?
yes, yes, I am a very okay. Let me plug this in so my phone doesn't die mid live. Um, okay, cool. It's charging. Um, I'm a very I'm a very visual person, and when I see song or when I hear songs, I see them as well in my head as they're playing, and every song has a music video in my head. Like every song,
Right.
even if I don't have a music video to it, every song has a music video,
Mm.
and to me, all these new songs are bringing out so many like new ideas and different visuals in my head, things that I feel like um I'm just excited for. I'm just very excited for it. It's just it's just fun, and the excitement is so overwhelming and joyous for me that I constantly like listen to these songs and constantly think of these videos, think of these shows, like think of everybody singing the song, like all of that. My just the excitement for all of this is just so vast that like my imagination is just everywhere. And I feel like that's like every artist that is so excited to put out new music.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And lastly, Shao, I gotta ask you, you talked about the journey so far, you talked about where you currently are. Like, what's the end goal here? Because I know, like, this generation is different, I find. Like, there's a lot more, especially because, like, I don't think charts and success and all that, that's not as glorified as it was, like, back in, my era. But, like,
Mhm.
what's the end goal for you? Are you, what do you hope to accomplish, down the line?
Um, my end goal is literally like I've told Chris when we've had plans for this, even now we still do, is just to help people. Like I'm here
Mm,
to be for people, to help them and
yeah,
to just I don't know. I just love to love, I guess. And like my end goal is to like when I get older to be like 50, 60, still performing at small shows, like
small shows?
not small, like no, yeah, like
Yeah.
more intimate
Oh,
shows. There
okay.
we go.
Okay.
Intimate shows. And I don't know, just knowing that I've helped people. Like I have plans for charities and fundraisers and events that me and Chris want to do. There's a lot of things that we have um, in store that we want to achieve outside of music. I feel like
Right.
personally for me, like songs do help. Songs is already there, a
Yeah.
premise. But I feel like there's so much more that I can do. And that's what I want to do. Everything that's
Nice.
in my head. So
Nice. That's
to get old, still do my little shows, vibe on stage with the
yeah.
people that grew with me and help others. It's
No,
really
that's
good.
exciting to hear. Awesome.
Yeah.